Hey, this is Richie Knuckles, and you are listening to the Scene World Podcast.
Hey everyone, I'm AJ. Joerg is that guy right there with the beard. And that means that this is the Scene World Podcast. That is a luxurious looking beard today. Are you growing that out?
No, I will shave it.
Oh. Yeah.
You ask me this every time I shave.
Well, but I've never seen it quite so luxurious before. You look good with a beard.
Not sure about that.
Yeah, you do. I like it.
Yeah.
So anyway, in a minute, who are we talking to today? I'll let you do the honors.
Oliver Stender and Frank Fuhrmann.
Yes, and they are the champions of two of the competing champions for Kickoff and Kickoff 2.
Exactly, two of the best players, yeah.
Yeah.
They were both German champions at once, though they are both very good. And Kickoff 2 on the Amiga, or General Kickoff 2, is special because you can easily lose your ball and you have to do a lot of tactics, and
it is not an easy game to play.
Exactly, and this was one fire button only.
Yeah.
Anyway,
before we get to them, there is some news, some things that have occurred that we can talk about.
Yeah, exactly. A lot from in television, actually.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
you sent me all these emails.
Yes, so they are sending out news as mad right now. For example, one of them was that they have this application for mobile, and they call it Amico Club app.
Yes.
So that's pretty neat, and it's available for Android and iOS.
Okay.
And then they also celebrated their 40th anniversary of Intellivision, and released, more news, assets, and demos about the upcoming Intellivision Amico. New music, gameplay, demo trailers, and so on.
Yes.
And they also announced one of their exclusive games being released there again is Breakout.
Which was actually the original one. The original Breakout was coded by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, wasn't it?
Steve Wozniak, yeah.
Yeah, they worked on that back at Atari.
Yeah, exactly. And Nolan Bushnell did the Breakout arcade machine.
So Intellivision's pretty active. They're really starting to push this thing.
Yeah. So they are available at launch, which would be available at the 10th of October in the year 2020.
Okay.
So roughly a year from when you listen to this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of new games, Double-Sided Games, who's been responsible for some of the big-ins in the last year or two for the 64 and so forth, they've announced 3 new games in the 2020 lineup. So they've got the ones that they are, I guess, guaranteeing that are going to be released are currently Hired Sword 2 for the C64. That's going to be in a boxed and digital format. There's going to be a game for the 64 called Don't Break the Balls. I don't know exactly what that sounds funny. It looks pretty good. So that's going to be for the C64. And then for the A1200 is Super Metal Hero. And that's going to require an O30 accelerator with 4 megs of fast RAM. So it's not going to be your stock A1200. But that looks also pretty cool. So those are the 3 games that they're saying will definitely be out in 2020. We'll put links to where you can find out about them below.
Yeah. Other news that happened is Mashable released an article saying that the Atari VCS is in development hell and in trouble. And they headlined it. Atari's retro console project appears to be completely falling apart. And then a few days later, Atari in Paris released a counter statement to the press.
Okay.
That they are indeed preparing the commercial launch, and it will be compatible with the Unity game engine.
Okay.
So, how did you call it? A lot of mud fighting again.
Mudslinging.
Mudslinging. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of conflicting reports. So only time will tell. I mean, of course, Atari's gonna say, no, we're totally doing this. We're committed to making this happen. This is totally, because they don't want their investors to think that anything is wrong. Whether or not we actually see it in the end, we'll need to find out and just wait.
Well, so far so good. I didn't pledge for the Indiegogo back then.
Neither did I. I'm not big enough on the Atari to really.
Yeah, me neither.
I had a 2600 years and years ago. Someone gave it to me, and I never played it. I never actually did anything with it. It just seemed so. At the time, I had my 64. I'm pretty sure I had an NES, and someone handed me this wood-grained old thing with knobs and stuff on it and switches, and it just kind of seemed like this old crusty old thing. Like I didn't care to play with that. And then maybe the one game that it came with. Atari games were not renowned for being graphically brilliant.
That is because it was originally just a Pong machine.
Yeah.
Which you can read in, I think it was Scene World 18, where we interviewed David Crane as a text interview, where you can read all the details.
Right. And
just to reference it again.
Yeah. And while they did have some interesting graphics capabilities, and it has a lot of colors. 64's got 16. The Atari, the original Atari 2600 had a couple hundred, I think. But because of the way that the graphics work, it's weird the way that it has to pile on the graphics, and then so I never got into it much. Have you heard of the Progress?
No, what's that?
Okay, there's a new SD card reader for the 64. It's called the Progress, PRG Res. It said it's similar to the Tapewino, but it doesn't load tape files. It loads PRG files instead. Okay. So you use a built-in browser to find what you want. You plug it in, and you're ready to go. And this is made by Ami64.com. The current price is $33. Or £30 in Britain. I don't know why we're looking at British numbers. It's a fork of the tape card that adds SD card support. So it comes in a cool little box and stuff. It looks cool. That's an interesting idea. It looks like it plugs into the tape. The tape port. So that's an interesting way to have an SD card reader that doesn't actually use up your IEC port or. It's right in the tape slot. So
that means it doesn't work on the SX64.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like SD to EC.
Not even.
Or IEC.
Not even, because the SD to IEC essentially looks at each SD card as a big disk, and you can go into the D64 files as if they're kind of partitions.
It doesn't support IQ loaders.
No. And it doesn't support tape files.
Yeah.
So, but it's useful for. I love the SD to IEC. A lot of people take a dump on it because it doesn't have real 64 emulation, or real 1541 emulation rather. But I like it in that it's it's a useful thing for getting files from your PC or Mac to your 64, because you can just take the SD card, copy the files over, throw it in there. Also, it's kind of like having a really big hard drive. You know, your hard drives for the 64, you had, you know, your CMD drives or the LT kernel, and you were usually...
Or you have the IDE 64 from Czech Republic, which I have, and it worked fine.
Right, and you were a lot of times you were limited to, you know, 4 gigs or something for a CMD hard drive, or an LT kernel was 40 megs. These things, an SD drive, you know, SD to IEC, I can throw in a 32 gig SD card and have a bunch of them. I mean, I currently have...
So it does support high capacity.
Oh yeah. I've got a whole bunch of different SD cards that I use just as I use these almost as disks. You know, this is I download files onto that one. You know, I've got demos stored on this guy. You know, there's you know, easy flash utilities over on this one. So I actually you know, it's cool like that. And as a hard drive where you're not relying on IRQ tricks or you're not relying on full emulation, I just want a high capacity storage device. It's perfect for most software needs. You know, if I'm going to use geos or I'm going to do something like that, I'll use an actual disk. You know, I'll still use that. And or the 1581 is great as well for if you want a disk that works with that stuff, but you know, like that works with geos, but that you have a higher capacity. But just for general high capacity storage needs, the SD2 IEC is great, and a lot of games do run on it. They've been fixed to you know, ignore the IRQ loaders, so it's cool. You know, so I still like it. A lot of people, you know, they rant about like, don't forget that and get the ultimate 1541-2 and all that, and which is the ultimate 1541-2 is cool, but it's also, it costs a bit, and you know, if you're looking,
totally worth it.
It's worth it, yes. But if you're just looking for storage that's easy and cheap, the SD2 IEC is awesome, especially the one from The Future is 8-bit. I love their stuff. It's quality, it's professionally made, beautiful devices. But yeah.
Well, other news. The French CPC Amstrad Facebook group started a game development contest, so we will link to that. Okay. Then Min Becker, who is a German retro coder, developer, and YouTuber, he released a retro jump'n'run for Android called Takelshin.
Okay.
That looks very promising. And also, we released the English voiceover of our Birgit Lechtermann interview.
Yes,
where she talks about pioneering in bringing computer shows for youngsters and teenagers and so on into the television.
Yes.
And yeah.
If anyone hasn't listened to it, they should go check that out. I liked the... You pointed it out to me. I listened to it, and I really did. I liked the bit with the airplane. Thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was actually really cool. Yeah.
That was beautifully voiceover.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Yeah, so totally worth it. I really took the effort of hiring voice actors and a translator to make this all happen. So I hope after this, people will watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get the view counter higher.
Yeah. A couple of months ago, I don't even know if it was a couple of months ago, maybe a month ago, we talked to Micronics, who were working on a keyboard for the Amiga 500, 600, and 1200.
Exactly.
They did not meet their goal after the campaign in which they were looking for $48,000. They made $9,100. So as of a couple days ago, they posted on their Kickstart page that they did not reach the goal. They are currently working on, these are their exact words, "We are currently working on a keyboard which would not require custom molding and will not require so many backers as this one. We will have prototype by the end of January. We will post any news on our website and also on the Amiga forum, and then they link to a thread. So we'll post the link to that thread and the link to their site. So that's great because, when we talked to them, we did kind of endorse, like, we want them to, if they aren't successful, we didn't want them to give up because it's a really cool project. And so they weren't successful, but they're not giving up. They're still going ahead and working on it. It's not going to require custom molding. And like they said, there should be a prototype by the end of January. So I'll be following this closely because I'm very interested in this sort of thing. And again, we'll put links to both the forum where they can post on the English Amiga board, I guess, and to their website as well, so everyone can go and look at that.
So actually, they are looking for connection with the with the Amiga scene,
yes,
which is nice because they were a bit neglecting this idea of getting in touch with the community.
Yeah, they weren't doing too much promotion of it, which is it is what it is. We discussed it with them in the podcast. If you want to hear about that, you can listen to that podcast and hear about why they weren't going buck nuts with trying to get all the attention they could. Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was pretty much it. We are pretty much full this time with a lot of interviews.
Yeah. Oh,
I've
also got the D64, the full size D64 has started shipping, and some people have been showing have been doing some unboxings and some first impressions of the machine. From what I gather, it is almost exactly the same size and shape as an original C64, an early one. Some people are saying it's bigger, but there were some variation in size between 64s.
Exactly.
So it is the exact size as the original 64 and the VIC-20. There is some word that the keyboard feels a little bit cheaper than the actual C64 keyboard, but what are you going to do? Hey. It's funny too because you break it open, and it's a tiny little board. Like most of the case is empty.
I know, yeah.
Which is kind of funny, and also an interesting result of this is that the C64 128 Facebook group has now made posting about. It looks like they're going to make it allowed to post about the C64.
Whoa!
Because in the past they frowned on bringing any of that up, even though emulators and stuff are talking about Vice or the Ultimate C64 or the 64 Reloaded, that was all allowed, but this thing, the 64 Mini and whatnot, that was frowned on. But it looks like with the release of the full size, they did a poll where they asked, should we start allowing people to talk about this? And the votes were overwhelmingly in favor of allowing it.
Because it's more like a real machine.
Right. And I made a comment on there, which was that all 64 is good 64. As a coder, anything that increases the potential audience for something that I'm going to be creating is good. Whether that be an emulator or an FPGA thing or this thing, regardless.
Just think about Zem's journey. Mm-hmm. Which would have not been such a success as it was when there was such a large audience.
Right.
Thanks to the C64 Mini and DTV and all this other stuff.
Right, exactly. Yeah, without that stuff, without these things that are letting people that don't have original hardware use the things, your audience is tiny. So
and even though the Z64 Mini and Max is emulation based, you can expand it by simply plugging in a USB stick with the D64 on it.
Right.
So
yeah, it looks like the joystick that they include with it too is with the 64 Mini. There was a lot of issues with the keyboard, or with the joystick rather. The joystick was not. The joystick wasn't that great. It wasn't that well made. The new ones that come with the full size are micro switched and seem a lot stronger and are much higher quality than the things that came with the Mini. So I'm actually, if I see one of these in the store, I may actually get one just for the sake of having the thing, because it does look cool.
The same problem was with the DTV back then. The joystick was crap.
Well, the DTV was a joystick. I mean, that was the whole thing.
I know, but it was still crap.
Yeah, well.
The Mini is a joystick too, but still crap.
Well, the Mini has a joystick, but the Mini is just a little box. You can plug any USB controller into it.
That's also true. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but a lot of people were finding that the stick itself would break after a bit, you know, and the connections weren't great. So now they've micro-switched it. They've made it a little stronger. So it's actually like a real solid
and
joystick.
You can buy it separately.
Mm-hmm. Now, if only they start making that with dual connections, so it can be USB and DB9. So I can use it on my original.
I think Jens Schönfeld has a license for that.
I think they also make USB to C64 joystick adapter, so you can plug in a USB connector to it. So you could probably use it that way. But that's getting a bit ahead of ourselves. So
all right,
yeah. If we got nothing else, then we should talk to these guys about some Kickoff and some Kickoff 2 and.
Let's kick off the interview.
And why I would be terrible at this game.
I am terrible at this game.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So, today we are having two guests, and this is Frank Fuhrmann and Oliver Stender, and we are talking about Kickoff 2 on the Amiga and championships. So, welcome, guys.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
So let's start a bit with the beginnings. How did that all start? Maybe Frank, how did you get into computers? That's actually interesting. I never asked you that personally.
Well, I guess it was around the age of 14 when I got my first Commodore 64. Compared to my colleagues at school, I think I was rather late getting a computer. They all had Ataris, VCS before, and they got Commodore 64 after that. And it was 1987 or 88. I can't remember it. A Christmas gift, basically. And I had that for 4 years. And after that, I upgraded basically to the natural path to the Amiga. And I guess the first soccer game was soccer on the Commodore 64 by Andrew Spencer.
Yeah, a real classic.
And then Microprose Soccer, and then Kickoff 1. 1989, 1990, something.
And how was it for you, Oliver? How did it start for you?
He's frozen.
He's stuck.
It seems so. That's new. That's not something we had before. Well, he still appears to be in the call. That's fun. Okay.
Okay then.
Well,
now he's gone.
He just dropped off.
Okay, maybe some more facts I remember. We used to play Kickoff 1 with 2 or 3 friends, and there was one standard routine goal. You just could lift the ball over the goalie, and it was rather boring. And so if you knew this trick, you could easily score. But with Kickoff 2, approximately 1,000 more ways to score came into play. And the simple trick that worked on Kickoff 1 didn't work anymore. So you had to figure out how to get the ball into the goal. And like I said, there are 1,000 ways. And almost every way is recorded. And almost every way to score a goal happened on one of the World Cups, I guess. So, and there are even some goals that got branded with their own name. Fischer gone fishing goal maybe. Fischer is the goalkeeper, and he passes. There is a bug in the game where he passes behind his own line, and the goal is empty basically. So, and we have one guy in the UK, Steve Camber, who gets rid of some bugs and who upgrades the game, puts in more statistics, and gives the goals certain names, and they appear after the goal happens basically. So the game is still in process. The development of the game is still
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And if I remember correctly, he was working for Anko, the publisher or the producer of Kickoff, and so he got into the industry as a game developer quite early. And there was a connection between Steve and the other programmers, Dino Dini and Steve Screech. And that's where the know-how comes from. I just had to look at the list of guys who already joined or are willing to join the World Cup. And I guess we are 34 right now, 34 guys, all male.
Okay. Oh, of course.
Of course, yeah. Several different countries. The first one from Belgium. I never played against one from Belgium. France, one from France. Italy, Norway, Sweden. One is traveling from the US, from Seattle.
Oh.
But he's originally Norwegian.
Just yesterday, Facebook reminded me that 7 years ago, to the day of yesterday, you actually did also a championship appointment for Kickoff in a hotel here in Germany.
Yeah, I was the host. And I think it was the last try to host the German championship. A lot of players dropped out. So there are some groups in northern Germany, some groups in the southern part, and when one drops out, the friends drop out as well.
Right.
Basically. So we were down to 6, 7 regular players, and not enough to host a German championship. So yeah, I think. What did you say? 7 years ago?
7 years ago, yeah, 2012.
Yeah, I think it was the last German championship. Yeah.
In October, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I borrowed you like 4 or 5 monitors for the Amigas.
Yeah. Of course. We play on original machines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the thing actually. Because it's said, I'm not an Amiga expert, I even don't own one, but it's said actually among the players that even the Amiga emulator has a slight delay, so the experience is not as good as on real hardware to this day.
I think the only valid alternative would be like it's called MIST. I'm not sure what's the acronym stands for. MIST.
Yeah, I know the machine you're talking about.
It's an FGPA programmable chip, and it basically it's a hardware replacement for the whole Amiga system, not emulating the system. So that has almost no delay. But every time you use something, you use piece of software and you use a USB port, USB dongle, there's always some microseconds, or normally not recognizable, but if the player doesn't immediately react like you expect it to, it changes the gameplay. I think some people are starting to get used to that. They even play each other on a PC version, which is not an emulated version, but reprogrammed from bottom up. And they play it over the internet. And you have to have a low ping, a low delay. But I never tried. In the early days, yes, but basically I'm lacking time. So.
Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting because a few podcasts ago we had Endstream, who are like the Netflix of retro gaming, and actually even HAZ, despite its streaming over the internet, there's no delay whatsoever.
And it's weird too because it's not only emulating, it's streaming the video because you're not even like emulating the game on your machine. You're just streaming the video from another machine that is emulating the game, and there's still no delay, which is amazing.
Yeah. Maybe it's just something you feel, or it's just in your head when you move the joystick and the player doesn't react immediately. But I think in the near future we will have to get used to find a replacement for the old systems. It's easy to get a floppy emulator. You have like a device to use instead of the floppy that uses USB drive sticks. You can change the monitor. You can use LCDs. All perfect. But the Amiga itself, so far for me, not replaceable.
Right.
And Oliver is back.
There he is.
I don't know what happened, but suddenly you dropped off.
Yeah, actually, my internet was down for a few minutes. I can't remember this happened in the past, but yeah, very bad time for this to happen. I hope it will be stable right now.
It's no problem. Frank already put us into the picture about the problem of emulation with Kickoff 2 and the delays.
Yeah, I don't like it either. Yeah, it's not an option. Yeah.
So anyway, I was about to ask you how it was for you to start with the computers and then go about Kickoff 2 for the Amiga.
Actually, since I don't know at which point I was interrupted, I start all over again. Yeah, that was my interest for gaming began in the late 70s when my father purchased a Nordmende video play, also known as Fairchild F internationally, and was very poor graphics, only 3 or 4 colors, I don't know. Later on, I received an Atari 2600, and then my first computer was, of course, as for many of us, Commodore 64. It was in 87, also a Christmas gift, and then 2 years later, the Amiga followed in 89. And one of my first games was Kickoff 1, and 1 year later, followed by Kickoff 2, a game that amazed me emotionally, and I never lost fascination for that. I played many games. I still play many games now that I played 20 or 30 years ago, but I think I most frequently play Kickoff, yeah, for sure.
It's amazing how similar our experience and computer history goes.
We had nothing else. We didn't have anything.
But like I said, you were the one of the rich kids who got an Atari first.
Yeah. But it was back in 85. It was still a bit late because at that time the Atari was already outdated. The same was for the Commodore 64 in 87, was a bit late. Amiga was still in the right time. 89 was still very popular, even until the mid 90s, when afterwards it was overtaken by PCs. But now, yeah, Amiga is still favorite for me.
And how did it actually start that there is a whole community and championships and traveling all over the world? Was there a starting point? I remember you told me like yesterday that it started like 20 years ago or something.
Yeah, I think it was the KOA was founded. I think the first World Cup was in 2001 in Dartford, but that was 4 years before I joined. It was before, because I can't remember. I was not there. I think the KOA was founded, I think, was it 2000 by Gunther Wening, the Dutch guy?
Yeah.
And
I think you're right, yeah.
Yes, this is where we all got together. And on this platform, we were able to find other players abroad all over Europe. And then the first tournament started, also the World Cup. But national local tournaments as well, like German Championship or small local tournaments. Yeah, but the basis was when Günther Winning founded the KOA. That was he paved the way for all that came afterwards.
Well, and it was the early days of the internet, and I think there were several groups in Germany playing independently. They found each other independently and didn't know of each other. So everyone hosted a German championship, basically. And my first encounter was when I was looking for software for my emulator. And of course, you go for the software you knew from the days back. And I was looking for a Kickoff 2 copy, and it was 2005, and I found records on the internet of 2 German championships, one in Osnabrück and one in Saarbrücken. And when I found those guys, the first World Cup in 2005 was in Cologne, so very close. And I wrote to the host. It was, help me,
Sascha Reigelmann.
Sascha, right.
Sascha.
And I wrote to him an email, of course, and I asked if I had to qualify to visit the World Cup. And he said, no problem, just come by and bring hardware, of course. And I won't forget the first evening, traditional Friday night, the Amigas are being set up and the first friendlies are played. And I entered this room and I haven't heard the sound for 5 or 10 years at least. And there were already 10 or 12 Amigas, all actually powered on, all with kickoff, and 24 people playing at the same time. And that was amazing. That was really amazing. And it was the biggest World Cup, basically. 63 attendance.
Yes. And I have to add and give some credit to Frank that it was also my first World Cup, the Cologne World Cup in 2005. Yeah. We were both new players, but we still didn't play against each other and we still were not aware of each other. But yeah. Frank was the best new player in this tournament. And
16.
You.
Yeah, I played. This is another fact I won't forget. I played the game for place 15, and I lost against an English player in penalty shooting.
Very uncommon.
Yeah.
It was a big crowd. It was a big crowd, and we were the last game, and then 20 people are standing behind our backs and watching. So.
And I think it's not only limited to Europe. I think at one point you were in Dubai or something, or was it Egypt? I think.
No, it was Dubai.
It was Dubai, right?
Well, another English guy who worked for Orange, the telephone company, a UK telephone company, and he was assistant manager in Dubai for 2 or 3 years. And when his last year began, he was willing to host, before he leave, he was willing to host an event and invited up to 10 people, as many as could stay in his flat and the flat of his friend. And so we were, I guess, 11 people traveling all over the world to Dubai to play kickoff in the desert, basically.
Now some people say
it was a decent hotel. We were invited. We didn't have to pay a fee or so. He was happy that enough people came, and he had a hard time getting hardware. Especially the Amigas, no chance, but he was able to get 15-inch TVs also.
Okay.
So everybody was stepping into the plane with Amigas, basically? Or how was it?
What did you mean?
I mean, everybody was bringing their own Amigas to Dubai. As you said, Amigas was impossible?
he managed to he already knew in advance that he will host an event. So whenever he traveled back and forth, I guess he was able to collect 3 or 4, and the Italians brought one, and I guess Jacob also brought one. So we had 5 Amigas.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
That must be hard, going through customs, stepping in
trying to
the
get
plane,
into
and
the TSA with an Amiga
Yeah, I think so.
500 under your shoulder.
Yeah.
you're like, what is this? Oh, a keyboard, no problem.
Yeah.
That's the advantage. Most young people don't know that the computer is inside the keyboard.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So how was it for you, Frank, to host your own event here in Mannheim, in our city, in a hotel? I remember that you were surprised. You told me how difficult it was and how much you had to organize.
Yeah, the thing is, if you expect 10 or 12 people, you can't rent a room for 500 euros. So I had to find a hotel that was able to host a room of 20 or 30 square meters at a decent price. And I was asking 2 or 3 hotels, and I got rejected basically. So I was lucky to find at least one who was willing to host. And I guess I'm not sure, 200 euros maybe. I'm not sure, can't remember. But I was hopeful to invite at least 15 players, and was really disappointed that we weren't even 10 or 11. I'm not sure. So this was already a sign of the decay of people losing interest, at least in Germany, to visit a German championship. And so what I remember losing to Oliver in the final, and I remember being disappointed that we didn't have enough attendees, basically. And I had the host syndrome, so keeping 30-year-old guys at schedule, play their games. Even like I said, we were 9 or 10 people. We lost the monitor. We lost one Amiga. You're always busy to keep the stuff working, the people playing. So you have a divided attention, of course.
And also the problem of joystick suddenly not working anymore.
Also,
and
yes.
Yeah.
And
I remember
always good to have a spare one.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I remember on one of the last we had extension cables that didn't always work, and all those problems. Actually, the last one I attended was at Oliver's home place. Actually,
was the last one.
Yeah, that was a training session, I think. Right? I remember that. Yeah,
it was a small tournament.
Yeah, a convenient tournament.
Yeah, we were barbecuing and all that stuff.
Right.
That was pretty neat. Yeah. So it's always like you are having tournaments, and then once a year you have at some other place the championship.
You mean the World Cup?
Oh, the World Cup. Yeah, the World Cup.
Yes,
right.
Yes. Yeah, the World Cup actually until.
Okay. He's not lucky with his internet today.
Yeah. Well, while he's gone, the social events, the social life during the World Cup, during the tournaments, has become a more and more important fact. Of course, you meet the same people, but only once a year. So it's like excitement, and you're happy to see each other again and to talk to foreigners, basically to fellow Europeans. And as far as I remember, it was one of the rare events where I can speak to Italians to British people, to Greek people. That does not happen very often during normal day life.
Right.
That's true. That's true. Interesting thing, by the way. Yesterday, Frank and we were doing a test call, and he was worried because he's not living alone there that his internet wouldn't be stable. But he's not the problem today.
No, no, I'm not.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. But Joerg, you can tell us and anyone who listens how difficult it is to master kickoff.
Oh, definitely. I mean, every time I'm asked, it's like, oh, I will probably make the last place if I win anything, you know. And it's always a battle on the rear end of the ranking. Who is the worst player, you know? And yeah, and I don't know. It's for me. I am a micropro soccer person. And you know, I'm more the banana kick and sliding person, and kickoff is totally different because I'm constantly losing the ball. The ball is not glued to the foot, and you can't just turn around and make fast movements and so on because you will lose the ball. The concept of kickoff too in the controlling area is really very different from any other football game I've ever played before. And yeah,
even compared to today's FIFA and PS, I think with those two, the ball sticks to the foot.
Yeah.
I lost track of FIFA 10 years ago, but you can do the movements. You have 20 buttons on your controller, and you control the movement, and basically the player does the tricks. You only do the movements and push the button. And it looks nice. It looks good. It's almost like an actual TV sports screening of a real football match. What you cannot tell about kickoff. But the fancy stuff about kickoff is it is limited to the basics of football, basically. The players all look the same, but they are different. They have different characteristics. One is bigger or heavier, has more strength, more endurance, better shooting abilities. So it's in the details, but you don't see it. You cannot recognize by 10 pixels the difference of one player to another. But it's nice. It's a perfect game, and it's still played. That's the reason why, I think.
Right. And it's interesting for me, as I said earlier, that the source code is actually available, and there's still somebody updating it every year or every couple of years.
I'm not sure if he is really possessing the source code, or if he's able to disassemble the binary. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I think you told me once that the original programmer of Kickoff 2 is also part of the community, or at least aware of the community.
Well, to be honest, the community is like every other social thing. You get too many people together with too many different interests. It's getting tough.
Okay.
You lose the focus. You lose the focus of what the real reason is why you are together here. Some are trying to set up new rules for the forum, for the internet appearance, the rules that are valid for the tournaments. There's always a discussion before each tournament, before each big tournament, basically, to change a rule. Then you have a 50-50 vote like in Great Britain. And everyone is disappointed at the end.
Okay.
So I'm not very active. I'm not very active on the forum or any of these discussions. It makes no sense to be the 21st arguing at the same pointless point. So
Right.
I just attend the World Cup. I'm happy to see all the others, and that's it basically.
Okay, Oliver is back again.
Okay.
Oh my God!
Yeah, now I'm online with my mobile phone via LTG. I hope LTE. I hope it will be stable now. So
Wow.
I'm not relying on my landline internet provider anymore. Not this evening.
Well, AJ, normally our internet is better here in Germany.
Yeah.
Or Oliver, are you in Georgia?
Unfortunately, not anymore. But actually, there's a better internet coverage than in Germany. Even on the highest mountains and the deepest valleys, then you have a better internet connection than in our villages in Germany. So
Is it? Okay.
in Georgia, it would look better, I'm sure.
That's actually true. I made a similar experience when I went to Bulgaria in 2008, and that was 11 years ago. And you would have 3G back then, even in the rural areas, far away from the big cities. So I was very surprised. Like always a good mobile connection. Oh my God! Not that I know why you would need that on the field, on a muddy street, but you have it, right? So Frank,
stay online. Oliver.
So Frank, you started telling us about the discussions and disagreements in the community and how the community loses focus and interest due to the fights inside the community.
I'm pretty sure Oliver has the same view to it.
Which view?
That there are several groups on the internet,
yeah.
different interests, arguments all the time, changing of rules, fighting over arguments that are not worth fighting, and it's definitely anything but kickoff.
Yeah, but actually I keep myself out of this. I just want to have fun, because when I go to a tournament, then I know they're all good people. Of course, on the forum there are sometimes fights regarding the rules and the tournament scheme and many little details. But for me, I don't like that. When I go, I want to have fun. I want to enjoy. I want to enjoy being with the people when I go to a tournament. So yeah. So, but Frank is right. There are actually, of course, there are arguing. There are fights going on. Actually, not in the recent past. As far as I know,
it has improved. It has improved. Yeah.
It has improved. Yeah. People grow older. Yeah.
Or the right guys dropped out.
Yeah, that's actually because I asked you how the coder is part of the community, and so you started explaining about that. I
actually met both guys, the graphics guy and the coder, but on two different World Cups. And rumor says they don't like each other much.
Really?
Wow, that would be difficult to work on the same team if you don't like each other.
Well, they worked on the same team 30 years ago or 25 years ago. Yeah, no, 30 years. 30 years.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So the fights are the reason why they don't attend to tournaments anymore?
I think that may be one of the reasons, yes. Yes.
Okay.
And of course, both are not the best players. They visit a World Cup now and then, but not regularly. No.
That's interesting, because from my point of view, you would think that the people who developed the game would know the game best.
No.
No.
A Formula One car constructor is not necessarily a good racing driver. So I think that's a quite good comparison.
Good comparison.
Well, that's why so many games have cheat codes and stuff, so that the developers can get to can test out the higher levels of the game without actually having to play to it. Because a lot of times just because you program the game doesn't mean you don't suck at it.
You don't suck at it. You mean the opposite, I guess.
No. I said just because you programmed it doesn't mean you don't suck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. So is there anybody who is head of the organization that keeps all the things together?
There are 2 or 3 more active guys, and the rest is more or less inactive. But there's no head of the community. No.
Well, this sounds like you need new material, new players.
Always.
Always welcome. Yeah, just join us.
And the good thing about the World Cup is it's not getting the best players together. It's getting every player together.
Right.
All the players. All the available players.
But I have to admit, I always feel a bit lost when I'm there, because I know that my chance of winning something is not so good. I mean, I always hear the stories like Oliver, like, oh, I played it with my coworker like for 6 weeks and every lunch break or something. I don't have this possibility to add. First, I would need an Amiga or a MUST device, and then I would need a human player to play against, so it's not so easy. It's not like it's like a game you can easily pick up and play, and it's really something you need to train for a couple of weeks,
and you really have you have to want it. You really it must mean everything to you. It must mean fun and not disappointment and frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
there's always a point within the World Cup where you get frustrated, of course.
Yeah. when you're saying shit or something, when the swear words are coming and the aggression is coming.
Although sometimes.
Joysticks.
Yeah, so sometimes though, not really knowing how to play goes to your advantage, because I can't tell you how many times, and this goes back to again playing the NHL, the hockey games.
Yeah.
Like when I started, I had no idea what I was doing, and so I'm pushing buttons, and it's like I'm pushing buttons and moving guys around, and I have no idea what I'm doing, and it was frustrating my opponents so much because they couldn't anticipate, normally you would do this kind of move, or you would try to do this kind of play, and I'm just going around in circles and I'm shooting it over here and doing stuff over there, and and sometimes that's the kind of thing where you end up winning games just because your opponent is so knocked off balance that they don't even know what to do anymore because
that doesn't work with Oliver. Oliver is taking the ball from me within 3 seconds. But I see where you're going.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, it was important to have at least 2 or 3 local guys, neighbors, friends, that were also interested in the same game and kept that interest even though they lost.
Right.
So that was the only way to get better. So.
Sure.
And then it's the point where you think you are the world champion, and then you meet the other guys.
Yeah, right.
There's always a bigger fish somewhere.
There's always a bigger bastard,
Yeah.
But both of you actually were champions.
Only national.
National champions, yeah.
Oh, well, still it counts something, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Of course.
I see it every time when Oliver wins, how proudly he presents it on his Facebook. I'm like, okay, you won again, So,
and again.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Who are the top players?
In Germany, or you mean in international comparison?
Internationally.
I think there are a few players that actually are playing in a league of their own.
Right.
That's of course Gianni, Duck, And then
Fabio,
very strong. Actually, I was wondering why he didn't win the World Cup earlier. So last year it was overdue for him to win. Then you have, of course, still have Andy and Thor. I think they are the top players, and at least in some good moments, I was able to beat a few of them. But like Johnny, Doug, I never beaten them. So, but I think the player I mentioned, they are the top players, of course.
Right. So we have 2 Italians, 1 Norwegian, and 1 from the UK. Yeah.
So where does what do you think will be the future for Kickoff 2? As you said, you are lacking of new talent in a way, and all these fights, but you are still seeing a future for Kickoff 2.
I think the community will. We often had to fear that the community will fall apart. That was a few years ago, but then a few people came back. Not everyone, of course. Some people stayed away forever, and I think some of them will never come back, even though I would appreciate it. Yeah. But I think the community will stay together for many years to come. That's at least my opinion. And we were already joking that maybe in 20 or 30 years we will arrive at a hotel, being brought into the tournament room in a wheelchair, and so maybe the right hardware will set the limit. That's also another important thing, that we will have to keep the hardware alive and take good care of the devices and of the gear. That's also very important. Right. But I think there are some people. There's a hardcore inner circle of players. I think a quite huge circle. I think in the World Cup, you can always expect at least 30 players to attend in average. Of course, we had the rock bottom we had in 2013. It was in Voitsbeck. There was only, I think, 17 players, but usually you have around about 30, sometimes around about 40. And like Frank said, in Köln we had 63. But I think 30 or 40 players, that's the average attendance of a World Cup.
Right.
I think that won't cease in the near future. Yeah, I'm convinced.
And are there new? Sorry. Yes.
I think the main reason for most of the people who dropped out was basically family reasons.
Yeah.
And financial reasons. Traveling to another country, staying 3 nights in a hotel room, the traveling costs, the housing, the food, the transportation, it sums up. And we saw that especially with the Creek players for the last 4 or 5 years now. There are not many who are able to travel.
Right. So how can you? In what ways can we work to expand the amount of people that this is exposed to? Because 30 and 40 people coming in to play a tournament for a game that was released in 1989 or whenever it was put out is that's pretty substantial. That's a pretty good number of people.
It is.
But how do we make that available to more people to actually learn the game and kind of get into that competitive spirit with it?
I have no idea. I think my experience is that I basically ignore every other game. I own a PlayStation 2 and I own a PlayStation 3, but I don't play. I don't have the time for it, and it's not the fun factor anymore. But Kickoff survived, and because of the competition and because of the interest we had 30 years ago. and that interest level kept at a certain level, and it never dropped to zero. There were a lot of players or a lot of owners of Amiga, and a lot of them owned or got hold of a copy of Kickoff. They played it, they experienced that it's hard to learn, and they ignored it. And there was a core of players who got infected basically, and were willing to learn. And that is maybe a reason why you, Joerg, will never have that fun playing a soccer game, because you are not a soccer fan.
Yeah, that's also the other problem. I'm not a soccer fan in the real world either.
Why would you play a soccer game on an old computer system?
That's actually true. Yes.
Only because of the other people.
I like the social part of it. You know.
Look at you guys calling it soccer. You're in Europe, isn't it? Football in Europe?
It's football, yeah, of course.
Maybe because of
but actually,
yeah.
Getting back to your question about a way to expand the number of players, I think actually what Frank said, it's very difficult, because basically retro gamers, they're an exclusive kind of people, and within this inner circle, Kickoff players are even more exclusive. Even 30 years back or 29 years back when it was released, I had many friends who had an Amiga and liked to play Amiga games, but I only had one friend who was willing to play Kickoff with me, at least sometimes. Most of my friends who tried Kickoff, they didn't get the hang of the control of the game, and they quickly became frustrated and lost interest. They didn't try anymore. But once you get the hang of it, because the controls are amazing, because you just have this 4-direction joystick and one fire button, not 8 or 12 buttons, and you have so many options, too many things you can do in the game. If you know how to do it, if you try and find out, and if you experiment with the game, and then you can have so much fun. But this is something that was only revealed to a few retro gamers, like maybe Frank and some others. So I think it will be very difficult to find new players, or someone who never played Kickoff before, who will try it now and think, oh, that's a great game. I will spend many hours to learn the controls. When you start playing it, to get the hang of it, to learn the controls, to control the ball, to run around all over the pitch without losing the ball, that's very difficult to learn. And I think that's the reason why many people or players who try the game, they find it too difficult, and they get frustrated and they just stop.
And they have thousands of other stuff to play for entertainment. Why invest your time to play a soccer game or football game that is 30 years old and is played only by a few people?
So how can people get in touch with you? To people, let's say people listen to this and say, "Wow, I want to try." Where can people find you? How can people get in touch and attend to such a tournament?
Of course, I'm sure you know our website, the forum, the gathering. So maybe you can publish the link to our website. Then you can easily register to the forum, and you can see whenever a tournament is hosted, it will be announced in advance. So you can see whenever there will be a tournament, and then you can go there. Everyone is welcome everywhere. So you can go to the World Cup in Bremen. You can also join a local tournament
in the UK,
at my place, or in UK Championship. And last year we also had a tournament in the south of Spain, in Jerez, where the cherry comes from, and there was a Spanish championship. So now and then you always have tournaments in some places, and then that you can find on the forum. And if you have a look into it sometimes, and then you can find tournaments and just attend.
Great.
You're
So
welcome.
hopefully we get here new players, perhaps. Who knows?
I think we already have some on the list, some names on the list I have never heard of, and they will attend the World Cup in Bremen next month.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I'm also very excited to meet Christian Dietz.
Right.
Along with Frank and me, he's the record national champion. He won the German championship 3 times, but that was before Frank and me joined. I never played him, and I never even met him. So I'm really looking forward to meeting him and maybe also playing him. So it will be interesting.
Right. Yes.
In Russia, the game plays you.
Yeah.
But that was Tetris. Alrighty. Thanks a lot, guys. I guess it's dinner time now in Germany.
You guessed, but you're there.
Almost breakfast.
Almost breakfast.
Okay, guys. So thanks a lot, and see you soon, right?
See you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye AJ.
Bye bye.